It always feels good when you accomplish stuff. And today, like a second ago, one of my students was very interested in getting a copy of the book that I've written for myself, not for DC, so I'm not going to tell anything about that other than you should check out my site and get yourself your own copy. But success is a really important thing because it's really important in life. And in comics and books and movies and other things, we seldom really get to enjoy success. And very often those successes that we have only come really at the end of the story, like where we win. Yay! But like the small incremental successes are also really important. And right now I'm just going to give a very short-ish, I mean it's still a few pages long, example of success and just of celebration of life. And so, without further ado, The Hood of Justice, Raven's Cry, Chapter 4? I think it's Chapter 4. Just a snippet. Over the next few days, Garfield is becoming increasingly more comfortable with life here at the Olympus Youth Shelter. Though he still doesn't know much about this strange world outside of the big place, he is getting a feel for it. For one thing, everyone here is much nicer than the man with the white hair told them they would be. Maybe it was only in places like the big place where everyone had a uniform, white coats over pants that were tan or blue or black or even white, that people were mean. At the big place, some people even wore their coats over skirts or pretty dresses. Those that didn't wear coats wore two-piece bodysuits that covered themselves up. When they talked about these clothes, they called them scrubs, and they were either turquoise or pale blue. Everyone in the big place was quiet, somber, giving him simple instructions and expecting that they would be followed through as quickly as possible. Even the hard tasks were given simple instructions, and he'd have to figure out how best to perform them. It was hard, and sometimes he got punched for it. One of the best things about the big place were the books and the videos. The books contained pictures of all sorts of creatures: cats, dogs, snakes, bees, insects, mosquitoes, apes, fish, woodpeckers, squirrels, rats, spiders. And the videos showed him what they were actually like. In one such video, Gar remembers how a puppy rolled over on its back and how much the people around it had laughed. Here at Olympus, there are also a number of books and videos and computers, but they're all almost entirely different. When he asked Rowan why that was the case, the young woman, she was 16, which meant that he could call her a girl or a woman. When Rowan told him that there were millions, hundreds of millions of books out there, and that it wasn't too surprising that the books here and there were different, she then showed him to the library here, which even had more picture books. To show her how happy he was to learn all of these books, he has been teaching himself to read harder, more advanced words, but sometimes he finds a word that he can't correctly fix sounds to the letters, and they are very different from one another. When things get really hard, he has been distracting himself by turning it into different animals on the pages: ant, antelope, aardvark, aardwolf, anteater. It was fun to cycle through these different kinds of creatures without fear of being shocked, because that's what happened in the big place. People at the big place have told him dozens of times, hundreds, that he got those shocks because he was getting distracted or losing focus. And those shocks hurt. The man with the gray hair never told him that he was getting distracted or losing focus, but others did. The people around him. They told him that he was special and that he had a great future ahead of him, and that if he were to fulfill his great future, he would have to concentrate. But Gar hates concentrating, especially on boring things like numbers or maintaining one animal for a long period of time. It's hard to keep the form in mind because he likes to think about different things, like the sound that a buzzing bee makes, or how grasshoppers make that really cool violin sound with their legs, or what it might be like to be a mouse and cower and scamper under something and hide from a big cat. "An elephant feels no pain," the woman said, jabbing him with a shocker again and again and again and again. But as an elephant, Gar could feel every jolt cutting through his body. making his long trunk shake and tremble. And it hurt. But she was saying that it didn't hurt. And that's why he left the big place. When nobody was paying attention, he became a beetle and landed on somebody's coat. And once the hallways of the place outside of the big place, Gar flew around until he came upon a door to the outside. Slipping into the shape of a green mallard duck, he flew towards the city a short ways away. It was much easier than to leave than he thought it would be. He wonders if he should go back and check on PR3 and WHLH08, but he doesn't want to leave the youth shelter. This feels more comfortable to him, and it feels right as well. He doesn't know why the big place feels wrong, but it is. Maybe it's because everyone else outside of there can move about as they please. Maybe it's because there's so much color outside of the big place, and music, and sounds, and people doing all sorts of amazing things with their lives, like playing basketball, or cooking, or driving beepy cars. Now that he has had a taste of freedom, the thought of going back to the big place, beautiful as it is, comfortable as it is, it makes him sad. It wasn't because he had to concentrate. He had watched the people in the white coats. He saw how effectively they worked thanks to their concentration. But Garfield thinks the real reason he wanted to leave was the shocks. That was what Allie and Rowan called them. Shocks. Electric shocks. When he was in the shape of an elephant, the shocks weren't as bad. His thick trunk could still feel the pain. His thick hide could still feel the pain. But when he was shocked as a bird, he felt it all throughout his hollow bones, and it was agonizing. And one day, after thinking about it a lot, and despite the butterflies in his bellies, he took off, and it was magical. People outside the big place were so different, without their coats, with their loud cars, and the way they talked into little black things attached to their hands, and the trees and the flowers and the rain and the wind, with noises that kept making him jump, the sidewalk on the roads, the bikes and chairs and shops and smells. And now here he is, outside, in the neat place, with all the rooms, and the many kids running around. He is one of the smallest here, and he likes that, because it gives him other people to look up to. There are no trees inside this building, like there were in the big place, but there is a small little garden out back, where flowers and shrubs grow, and where the wind can blow, and birds in the trees can sing their songs to kids who play out there. Right next to this garden is a basketball court, where one or another group of boys and girls always seem to be bouncing an orange ball and throwing it up at the net. He likes watching these kids play because of the colors they wear. Reds and blues and grays and blacks, all the colors of the rainbow. They have sneakers and shorts and t-shirts, and some don't even wear shirts. Gar does, though. He feels strange being without a shirt. And his tail, he hides that under his athletic pants. Nobody else has one, which makes him feel a little self-conscious about that. Why are you green? A little girl. Henny? Yes, Henny. That was what she said her name was. Had asked him on the second day he was there. Why are you? Yellow? Tan? What color was she? Garfield couldn't figure it out. It was a beautiful color, that was for sure. The same color as one of the women in the big place. Why are you not green? Are you green all throughout? Henny asked through the finger in her mouth. Gar lifted his shirt and showed her his belly. She poked the little hole in his belly, giggled, and ran off. But while this happened, he saw a few of the other kids looking at him. It made him feel strange, so he didn't bother removing his shirt again unless he was alone. But it was all okay. When he changed into the different animals, his clothes changed with him. Even the new pair of silver sneakers with their awesome purple swoosh changed with him. Yo, little help here. Gar looks up. He's been sitting on a bench in the courtyard beside the basketball court, trying to figure out what made snails slimy, and he's wondering if he'll be able to make the slimy stuff too. The basketball game has stopped. There are 5 boys and 3 girls out in the court. One of 2 of their names come to him, but he hasn't been here long enough to know who everyone is. They're playing half court because they don't want to run a lot. He's seen it enough by now to understand that much. The ball, Jamie says, pointing at the ball that is rolled under the bench that Gar is sitting beside. Jamie is older than many of the kids here. Not the tallest, but certainly a leader. With his dark hair and caramel skin, he has a look about him that Gar likes. He's friendly, too, and other kids talk about him with respect. Want to toss it back to us? Sure, Gar says, picking up the ball. Curiosity gnaws at him. He slips into the form of a sea lion and balances the ball on his nose for a moment. It's harder than he first thought it would be, and the ball slips off, rolling under the bench. Come on, kid. It might be out of reach for a sea lion, but it will be no problem for a gopher. In this new furry form, he gets behind the ball and rolls it out from under the bench before reverting back into the sea lion and kicking it over to the other kids with his tail flippers. Thanks, Fuzzy, says Jamie as he turns back to the game. I see you're making friends. This is Will. He's shorter than one or two of the other kids here at the orphanage, but unlike the others, he is a man. When Rowan first introduced him to Will, the man had just finished something called Group, where a number of kids got together and talked through their problems. Though Gar hadn't joined Group yet, many of the kids who came to it seemed more relaxed than when they went into it. Whatever they talked about seemed to be something worthwhile. Gar wonders if Will has some kind of magic with words to go along with his magical ability to change shapes. Hi, Will! Apple? Gar notices that Will's voice is a little distorted from crunching an apple of his own. Gar holds his hand out to Will, who tosses the fruit into the air. Gar then sneakily slips back into the sea lion and receives the apple on the tip of his nose, where it rolls downward toward the bump of his head. He tilts and jerks, and in moments, it's balancing on his nose far better than the basketball did a moment ago. Balanced thus, he then starts leaning forward, feeling his weight lift up off his hind slippers. Nice balance! Will is beaming. Toss it back. In a moment's breath, Gar is looking at what could be a mirror. The difference being between his sea lion and Will's sea lion is the color. Gar is always green, regardless of the form he takes. But Will's duplication is perfect. Every hair is steel gray as the real animals from the videos. His whiskers just the right length, the spacing between claws flawless. Garfield is good at taking forms, but sometimes he misjudges a little and puts a little too much tail, or the nose is a tad too long, or else the knuckles are a little too human in spacing, or the chest is too big. Gar gently rolls back onto all fours with his slippers, and swaying slightly with the roll of the apple, waits for the right moment to launch it at Will. The throw is low, but Will throws his head back and bounces the fruit on his large chest. It pops straight up, making for an easy catch on his own nose. He sways from side to side, rolling his skull while keeping his nose perfectly still. Then he launches the apple straight up again, and as it comes down, Will blurs from gray to the black, brown, and white feathering of a hawk. With a single mighty beat of his wings, he hurls himself skyward and snatches the apple from its descent. Above, there is only open sky, and Garfield feels a yearning in his chest. He has never felt the call of the hawk before, and the change is glorious. His strong, powerful wings imitate Will's motion exactly, and he is off into the sky. With a thrill, he calls out, testing his new voice, and he loves it. It is high and clear. Will glances back at the call and calls him even higher up into the sky. Flying is awkward, but there is such space here above the courtyard that his tail feathers can catch the subtle motion of the living air. He wavers once or twice, but this is what he was wanting. He wanted to explore the world, to feel the call of the air, and to see what was outside. Above him, Will cries out again. It is hard to look up and maintain his flight, so he tries something. With a push of his wings that catapults him forward and up, he pulls his wings tight to his side and rolls mid-air to look up at Will. The cry is answered, and when he then rolls over, he flares his wings again and flight is resumed, a little unsteadily, but he quickly regains his stability. Will is soon at his side and a little ahead. With Will just before him, Gar feels the pressure of the air lessen just a bit, making the flight a little bit easier. The pair are just two birds, eating up block after block as Starling City unfolds beneath them, an irregular structure of varying heights that push him and Will about him and Will about in odd ways that are both confusing and oddly regular. The amazing eyes of this aviary form paint the world in high definition, but he has little interest in these details, not when he feels the feathers around his ears blunting the whoosh of the air and the simple thrill of feeling himself exist hundreds of feet above the ground. There is no fear, only wonder. Before long, Will guides him through and between the tall buildings of glass and stone and metal, and into the heart of the city, where a mighty red stone clock tower reaches upwards. The pair circle the tower, and as they rise a ways above it, the tower has a clock on all four sides, but at its top there's a strange strip with a small wall on three sides. On the last side there's a triangular-topped cabana of sorts, stretching from one side to the other. Will crows for Gar to follow him down, and despite the large red apple in his talons, manages a perfect landing in the middle of the large square courtyard-like roof. Garfield's landing isn't half as graceful, and he overshoots his target, a move that culminates in an awkward tumble of feathers. Fortunately, the landing site is far more than just a single perch, and his tumble looks awkward, but there is no danger in the process. But pulse racing, he switches back to the human form. It gets easier with practice, Will says, offering his hand to the boy. I hope so. That landing was scary. Try doing that in a windstorm, and then you'll know scary, Will jokes. Hungry? Yeah! Garfield snatches a proffered apple and is chomping down on it noisily before he notices that Will doesn't have one. Want some? Nah. I ate before we came out here, remember? Was that your first time as a hawk? Gar nods, too involved with a smacking and slurping of the sweet fruit to offer a verbal answer. That was some impressive flying. You're a natural. Much better than I was when I was your age. How old are you anyway? Garfield shrugs. Were dates and holidays important to you where you came from? Gar shakes his head. Nuh-uh. Every day was the same thing, same weather, same practices, same food. I like apples. I thought you might. Have you had one before? Yeah. The other day, it was green, not red like this. This is so sweet. The green one was more sour. It made my face pucker. I saw another kid drinking apple juice. Is that good too? Is it more sour or more sweeter? Sweet. Really sweet. I used to drink it up like a fiend when I was younger. If you're looking for something sour, you could try some cranberry juice. Do you like it? Gar has reached the core. It's tougher than the rest of the apple, and the black seeds pop when he crunches them between his fangs. Me? No. But others love it. I know some people go through a gallon of the stuff every single week. Personally, though, I prefer coffee. Oh, that's the black stuff, right? Black and bitter, but it has a mighty kick. How can a drink kick? Gar asks, confused. Like this. And with a great bellow, Will shifts into a burrow and spins around on his front legs and kicks out with his hind ones. This takes Gar by such surprise that he collapses on his back, avoiding the kick. The gray mule looks down at him, and he's in that outrageous cry that such animals have. It was a move designed for surprise, and Garfield is completely unharmed. But a big smile spreads across his face, and as he follows his new friend, this mentor, into the shape of a donkey, together, the two race around the landing pad of the watchtower, just two regular old asses at play. So that's chapter 4, ladies and gentlemen, or that's part of chapter 4. And I just wanted to enjoy the celebration of life. Learning a new skill, succeeding in something, all of these are really important. Maybe we can't quite turn into different really cool shapes and animals like hawks and aardvarks and seals and badgers and burrows or things, but we can still enjoy our own lives. There's a lot of really good stuff in it. So go out, learn something new, have some fun, and celebrate your existence. Because you're here. You may as well make the most of it. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rob Queen.